Welcome to Honest Beers. My name is Leggy, and as always, I'm joined by Wally. How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm better than usual, Simon.
I know you are. I know. I was actually considering leaving the studio and just letting you take this one. But I think we just need to jump straight into it.
You're not going to need to.
I'll do the intro and then I'll get out. But all jokes aside, we are very, very lucky to be joined by one of the all-time greats. And I don't say that lightly because if you look at this man's CV, resume, whatever you want to call it, there's the premierships, there's Norm Smith's premiership captain, All Australians, there's everything.
All Australian captain.
All Australian captains. You're not even going to let me do the intro right. But we've got Luke Hodge here, mate. Hodgie, thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm a bit late. I've been out of Melbourne a few years. I got lost walking about 3 blocks.
You got lost.
No, but it is hard.
I'm blaming maps.
Yeah.
Maps took me the wrong way.
I'll tell you what. I'll say this before I let Wally take over, but there's two reasons why it probably didn't work. One, it is tough to get here, and two, Wally gave you the directions, so you were fucked from the start.
I'm not great, so I'm not.
Can't blame you. You had no fault there. That was all I know.
There you go. Hopefully my wife's listening. I'm not allowed to drive the car at home, just so we're clear. I know I'm bad at directions, but I was sure I nailed this. So I'm glad to hear what you said. I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, guys, have a good chat.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us. Look, Leggy's a Saints man, but you do have.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it is straight off the bat. But you've adopted us through a number of final series,
like the Hawks,
08 especially.
Because I hate Geelong.
Yeah,
so he's anyway.
But mate, another pre-season for the media, not playing. How's it been?
It's good not playing. Bodies normally, I had a bit of an issue a couple of weeks ago playing basketball, but the body's normally, it loves retirement. You put on a little bit extra weight, but the fact that you can still go and be a part of the game, like I've grown up loving AFL since I was a kid, so the fact that I'm still able to be a part of it, commentary, a bit of coaching with the school, with the kids stuff, but I think I'm the same as everyone else. The season rolls around so fast, but you're just keen for it to get going again.
Do you get footy fatigue at all, or are you just somebody that could do it 52 weeks a year if it was available? Do you like having the break?
No, I do like having the break.
Yeah?
I do like having a bit of a space, even from week to week, because we've got run around with kids. So this year I'm doing Thursday night, so I'll be watching 3 or 4 games of kids sports, footy as well as doing all the other stuff. But it's been a part of my life. I've been enjoying that for a long time. But you do get. There's a couple of times that you do turn off the TV if the footy's not great, and you just maybe flick it over to the basketball and have a look at something else.
Yeah, mate, and look, that is important. I was saying to Hodgie as well, I'm just getting into the kids' sport. You've got a lot more you have to manage than I do. I've got one. It's a lot easier. Do you get involved? Do you do any of the coaching in that, or is it just when you've got 4 you got to run around, so it's too hard?
I've struggled to be any form of coach because the weekends are pretty much gone. But 2 years ago, started helping out just with school footy. So they play on a Friday night. And in Queensland, all their school football is done in terms 1 because they're winter sports league and union. So all the schools invest heavily into that. So it sort of works well. You do all term 1 with AFL. And then when they close down and do rugby, you can sort of get stuck into the club footy. But doing a little bit of coaching with the school team this year.
They love that.
Oh, absolutely. Although they probably wouldn't even recognise you. They're being over there. Not as
we got quite lucky because Josh Dunkley's the head coach. So and our second son who's in year 7, Hugh McCluggage is their coach.
Wow.
Do the Brisbane players just get contracted out to the various schools?
No, I think what they realise is AFL's growing in there. Since COVID, I know COVID was shocking for so many people, but it actually made AFL grow up there because kids could not only watch it on TV, they could actually go and watch them on the weekend, and there was that much football up there. So I think what they have realised, the players, is they want to give back and invest in growing the code up in Queensland. And it's working wonders because I know Zorko's coaching his son's team as well. So
wow.
They're giving a bit back, which is great.
Well, it's not just COVID, but also the fact that the Brisbane Lions have been a good product for the last few years, which you...
That also helps as well.
But, I wanted to ask you about that because you were part of, and I know you'd probably be modest about it, but you were part of that in terms of getting on them when they were sort of on the beginning of their ascension. How did it feel, I guess, seeing them win the flag last year, not being a part of it as a club official, but still being part of that rise? Yeah,
it's weird. So I didn't go into the rooms after the game. Okay. I was interviewing them on the ground, but... I know, as a former player, it's almost like it's their time to shine. I'll go and have a beer with them afterwards and enjoy that. But I was rapt that I was able to be a part, going to interview, tell the guys. I spoke to Joey Danforth before he pulled the pin, and when he gave me an interview, I thought, geez, he is going to retire because he never gives interviews. But I was able to speak to Charlie's, I speak to Fags and a few of the other guys. So to sort of be a part of it, and I guess you do have a connection going up there at the end of 2017. I know you didn't like that, mate, but it was a good journey for our family, but also to be able to teach these young guys. Like, it was Rayner's first year, it was Berry and
huge.
McCluggage's second year, Bailey's first year. So to be able to be a part and help develop them a little bit, you sort of sit back and see they've come a long way, which is great to see.
It was great for Fags, wasn't it? Because you know he's copped a fair bit of criticism as a coach, and people have talked about it getting out coach here and that. But clearly he's a great people manager, and he's a great coach. And I think he proved to be a great game day coach through last year's final series. But that because he would have been a big part of you going up there, right? It
was the only reason.
Yeah.
Like I knew nothing about. I hadn't been to Brisbane since 2008. Prior to that, my wife had never been to Brisbane. We solely went up there on the back of Fags, and I guess he had a little carrot sort of saying that if you can help sort of change the culture of a footy club and teach young guys.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and I think it does show a bit the fact that this position they were in, 4 wins after round 12. I'd counted them out. So there's no doubt about that. But then to sort of see them being able to change their game style, but a lot of coaches can't do that. What was he saying? If you're walking on thin ice, your Mo's will dance. And they definitely did that in that game against GWS.
So yeah, because you went up there, obviously made an impact. The family clearly love it because you're still there. You never came home. Did you ever think you'd end up being a Brisbane local?
I didn't know. We were pretty open-minded. We always knew that if it didn't work, like we were invested heavily in Glen Iris. We lived there with all the kids who'd grown up. So if it didn't work, we're going to move back there. The kids would have went back into their school, back with the same friends that they grew up with. But I reckon we were there. It was about 6 months in, got to early June. And we're sitting there in shorts, thongs and a T-shirt watching Coop play footy. Then you call some mates down here and they've got beanies, hoodies, jackets, scarves
Raining
on.
sideways.
And you sort of sit there and I remember Lauren turned around and she goes, we're not going back. And I sort of took it as a bit of a joke, but what I've found out the longer I got married is I don't get a say in anything.
Yeah.
If she makes a decision, then that is final. And
smart.
We've been there ever since, which is, and we do. We love it.
Yeah, and great for them to have that success. Now let's talk a bit about your success. So we're going to go back. I want to go back to 2008. Now, 2008 is my favourite game of footy because we went in there. We weren't. I say we. Are we? As part
you
of
weren't. You weren't.
I am a member of the football club.
Yeah,
spiritually part of it. So thank you. Can we just clip that up, please? I'll just play that on a loop. No, 2008 for me. Just if you have a look back at it, even as a neutral, underdogs against the 21-1 team.
Yep.
So that Australians love the underdog and. I love it when Hawthorn dip off. Everyone forgets they hate us, and then they start to remember again. Hey, we don't like these guys because they always win. The Stewie Jew factor.
5 minutes.
You giving it these ones to Stokesy, like, why don't you test them out? Yep. And that was, and he gave you a little tap like this, which I still laugh at because it was like, oh, we're on here. and then we just talk to us about that day. Where does that sit for you? Because I'd love to know for you, where does that sit in terms of your footy highlights?
Well, I'm getting goosebumps already. So, clearly, when you retire, you look back and I guess you appreciate a lot more when you finish up because you do sit back and so many things were going on. As you said, the Stewie Jew, Cyril Yoli as an 18-year-old kid taking on 3 Geelong players and holding the ball. Sending a legend off in Shane Crawford, 305 games. Yeah. He thought he was never going to play in a premiership.
Amazing.
He had knee issues throughout the year. But as you said, it was just that journey. And I think the rivalry between Hawthorn and the Cats. I was a Richmond supporter, but I grew up down in Colac past Geelong. So when they were in the grand finals, you were sitting there watching them and you were cheering for them. Because we had no really connection to Hawthorn. But then 2008 brought that rivalry back, and then obviously Jeff Kennett with the Kennett curse. It sparked it up, and it's continued ever since. But it was just a perfect day. Stewie Jew's advice to us leading into the week of, look, you're going to go through obviously in the cars and the parade and all that kind of stuff. He goes, just enjoy it. Don't get too uptight. Don't get all your nervous energy out. Just sit back and enjoy the day. He was gold leading into it, but it just everything seemed to click for us. They got a couple goals late towards the end of the third, which tighten the lead back up a little bit, but everything else just went to a T.
Yeah, and that grand final produced a group of you that went on to win all 4, and we know that. And there was obviously Ruffy and Jordan Lewis and Mitch and Cyril and Birch and yourself. So Buddy obviously was in a couple and could have been in as many as he wanted if he'd stayed with the club. Drop off in 2009 and then improvement every other year. So basically the Clarkson And the legacy was sort of improvement every year, apart from that 09 year with the drop off to winning the 3 flags. How does that go? Like, you guys are top of the world. You look and you go, we've got a really young core of players, so we should continue on with this. But there was a lot of experienced players on the list, which like Trent Krogh comes out. Obviously, Stewie Dew played the game of his life and they drop off. 09, we're off a cliff. And then it's, for you, it's getting back up bit by bit. Talk us through that, because that was a journey.
I guess the main thing with that was our mindset. Like, we're a young team. Like, we've just beaten the best team going around. We're a young team. We're fit. We're fresh. We're healthy. This could go on for years. Unfortunately, that was our mindset. And as young kids, we didn't have anyone, because we had Stewie was the only premiership player. We didn't have anyone sort of sitting there saying, "Hey, celebrate for 2 weeks and then let's start focusing." I'd go back to Colac, and even at Christmas time, you hadn't seen friends for a few months. So you're having a beers and they're talking about the grand final, and you're still celebrating. And it probably carried on a little bit further than what we realised, because you didn't want to be rude, because everyone sort of cheers along with you, especially from a home point of view. But then it got back. We had a few injuries. I think we had 16 operations post 2008, but we weren't using that as an excuse. We came back, and I think Andrew Russell said we had a whole person extra in body fat between the 40 guys. So it's not like someone's gained 10. It's like, I've gained 3, you've gained 2, you've gained 1. But over the whole, out of the whole group, we had an extra person in body fat that we just dropped away just that little bit. Hang that with the injuries plus our game style. We didn't try to evolve it, because we thought, hey, we're young, and that's what we learned in other years. Every year that we won post that, we came back, and Clarko would take a meeting. He's like, how can we get better? Where we got back from 2008, it's like, well, let's go again. This is what we can do. So you learn a lot. You learn more from your mistakes. You learn more from your stuff-ups than what you do from, I guess, getting to the top of the mountain and succeeding. That's what we do. From 2008, we learn a lot, and we try to implement that over the following years.
So in terms of learning from your mistakes, 2012, you lose in a heartbreaker, then win 3 in a row. Do you win 3 in a row if you win 12, do you think? Or do you think that lesson there and that pain helped with that second and third year?
Yeah, I don't think the three-peat happens without, and it's not that. It's more, were we good enough to do it? Yeah, we were, because we had a similar list even with Bud going, but it was the small little things. Like, it was leaders trying to lead the way we thought was right and under pressure, like trying to do it with, the old captain's goal, or the leaders got to stand up. That's utter crap. That is utter crap. What you have to do is you've got to be reliable to your teammates. If it's a captain's goal, because he's in the position that his teammates know where he is to find him. All these things where we thought we had to stand up, you didn't. What you had to do was just be calm under pressure and keep a calm head if people make mistakes, because errors are going to be made. And that was one thing that we learned. We went back and we watched the 2012 grand final, and went back, and it was stopped, and it was shown every time that we made errors and what could we do better. And that was something we started to implement, whether it was a pre-season game, whether it was a home and away game, whether it was a final. The simple things win close games. And whether that's giving the hands or being selfless in front of goal, all these little things that we put into training, we did that no matter what the game was. Whether it was just a simple little 5v5 on the basketball court at the club, or it was out in the training track, we did and believed that, and that's probably what helped us with the three-peat.
One other thing, and we've spoken about this before, you've noticed this as well, if you look at those grand finals in 13, 14, 15, the sheer pressure that you put on the opponents from the start. I remember in 13 when Freo went down to Geelong, that game, and the way they played that game.
Said playing a car park or whatever.
And it was incredible. Everyone was like, oh my God, we haven't seen pressure.
The old anywhere, anytime.
Yeah. And which the Giants have sort of, they've adopted that in later years, and they've had a level of success with it. But the pressure that was displayed and just the starts in those grand finals, Freo a little bit differently. I mean, they sort of kicked a bit inaccurately early, but the other 2 grand finals were over quickly.
The Sydney one, I remember it was it Hanbury? Hanbury got dropped by 3 blokes. And I remember one of the commentators saying, oh, they must be targeting. No, it was just more, you had a Sydney jumper on. We had a bit of anger from 2 years prior when you knocked it off. You stole our best player, put him in your jumper. It didn't really matter who was in that Sydney jumper. It's just unfortunate for Hanbury. It was him 3 times where I think Ruffy pole drived him. Luke spear tackled David Hale.
The rough head one. The rough head one was the one
sent up Gunners' goal.
Yeah. And that was it. Is there, because I know what you're saying, like there isn't a captain's moment and all of that, and it's set up. But when you chop the ball off from the kick in and kick the goal in the second quarter, and that was like, we're going to win this game.
It was the second quarter, so I probably didn't think that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, is that just is like, could you have a better feeling in footy than that? Like that must, MCG, 100,000 people, grand final day. Like and you're the skipper leading them.
Especially when you don't kick many. So they're like, intercept and kick one through like that, and you know it's a turn. It really hurts teams, those ones. But I guess there's no better feeling for me personally than the 215. Kicking the one from the pocket where it went against everything I just said about centering to the top of the goal square. But be able to turn around and have all these brown and gold supporters right there. I remember got sent that photo a few times, and it's just a memory that will stick in my head.
I was sitting in that bay.
I was going to.
So I was in the bay.
I was looking at you. That's why I turned around. I cheered.
I was with friend of the show, Ben Horsey.
Oh yeah.
We're there as it was the first time. I think it was. I might have been the second time I was given the opportunity to go with work, and it was. So I was. That was the first time. It was my first year at sports.
Say, when they did like fan cam. Imagine if you were captured.
Oh man, it was just I was passed out.
Tears running down the face.
Tears. It would have had to have been all above here because we're not what below would have looked like. But 2014, though, I did want to talk about the buddy kiss.
Yeah,
I know you guys are great mates, so it was never meant in any disrespect. But what did he say to you after you? Because he kind of laughed it off a little bit. What did he say to you after? He took it pretty well.
We ran into each other a couple times. It actually started back first time we played against him.
Yep.
Round 8. I wasn't playing. Mitch wasn't playing. So it was the first time Clark had coached a game without Mitch, Sully, or myself.
Yeah.
Wow. And Bud was playing against his former team. So he was obviously pumped up, but no one sort of went at him. We weren't targeting, we weren't doing anything. But he ran off the square, the first one, ran through Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
And I was in the coach's box, and I thought it was pretty funny, the fact he ran through Louis. Clark didn't think it was that funny that no one went and stood up to him.
Yeah.
And then right at the end of the game, he ran through Birch. And Gibbo was just sort of pushing, like, didn't do much.
Yeah.
Clarko's fuming. So he held on until we played him. I think it was around 17 that year. And just sort of said, every time you run past Bud, I know he's your mate, I know you love him, but they're like, we need to get a bit of payback and just show him what we're about. So he sort of said, every time you run past that pointy elbow, if you can get him in the tricep or bicep, he goes, don't get reported, don't hit any, don't punch, but just let him know that, hey, we mean business this year. It was about 5 minutes ago. Bub was on the mark. He was putting his arms up, and I'm like, it's my chance to get him. So I ran past and pointed the elbow, got him right in the bicep, and flushed it. And then all I heard was, you. So I've just bolted. I've ran away thinking, if Bud catch him, he's going to beat the shit out of me. And Bud texts me after the game. He goes, you flushed me. I can't even pick my beer up. That's how sore my arm was. He goes, I'll get you back.
Yeah.
And Bud's, when he says that, you believe it. So grand final day, we had 2 or 3 run-ins where he's thrown the shoulder in a couple of times, and I thought, we're even. He's like, no, we're not. And then just before half time, I gave away a free kick. Umpire didn't pay it. It was down in the pocket, and we sort of went chest to chest. And he sort of had a bit of a smirk, and we moved on. Started third quarter, that's when it happened. We're 50 points up, didn't mean anything. He's sort of done the same thing. The ball's over the other side. And that's what gave him a kiss, thinking nothing. It was just 2 mates who played a lot of footy together. And all of a sudden, I hear 100,000 people start laughing. I'm like, holy shit. They, so I looked up and they replayed it time and time again on the bit. And Clarko hates that.
Really?
Clarko thinks you're being a smart ass if you're up by that much. So I've looked across and the runner was running out.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, I'm going to get dragged. So I piss bolted over the other side of the ground just so I didn't get dragged. But Clarko didn't see it. But apparently John Longmire gave the Sydney boys a bit of a revving when they went through the game on the Monday.
Really?
Just sort of saying disrespected. Yeah, and no one went and did anything. It wasn't a disrespect.
No,
Bud took it the right way.
Yeah.
Bud started laughing. But from what I heard, that the Sydney guys got a little bit of a spray from it.
What did Bud say after the game to you? I'm sure you caught up at some point in the sort of months after. Did you never brought it up again?
Nah, not about the kid. Nah, it's, as I said, it was water off ducks. But you don't even really think about it. That happened. Like so many things happen in a game of footy, especially normally the ones you remember is if someone's done something and you're angry at them. But that was harmless, and he took it that way. So I haven't really spoken to him about it much at all.
So you would have had a lot of premiership beers over the journey. We've got to ask who the best on when you're celebrating over that time.
Brian Lake comes to mind
can
straight after,
see
just
that.
of random stuff of stealing the golf buggy out in the ground, the Gatorade one, and taking off with it. The security chasing him, because he stole the golf buggy. Ben Stratton's always entertaining.
Yeah.
He's good value. And you can't go past the country boy. Either Grant Birchall or Joe Rufford are always pretty solid, always consistent contributors. Birch actually couldn't in 2013. He couldn't. I think it was either 2008 or 13. We flew down. Kennett put in the contract with Tasmania that we had to fly down and do the cup and all that. So our Mad Mondays got pushed to Wednesday. Birch was that crook he could not fly back on the plane with us. Got his way down there and had to stay overnight in Tassie on the Monday night and fly back by himself on the Tuesday.
Wow.
So the country boy, he definitely can stand up and hold his own.
Hey, mate, that's elite. Just to go back and speaking about 13, and you spoke about how Clarko was with over celebrating and that. You live by that mantra too to a level because you pulled Izzy Smith back in the line after he kicked that goal from outside 50. There was a little bit of that, which was job. Was that because you can't tell from the broadcast. It looked like you saying, and I've asked him that, he has a laugh about it.
Yeah.
And that was a job's not done moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think because we lost the year before, so it was like until that siren's going, and it was only a couple of goals, and they missed a lot of opportunities for you. Like they were in that game.
Yeah.
Izzy's kicked that one from 60, and I just thought, mate, just settle down. I might have probably said it a little bit firmer than what I did that. Yeah. And the smile on his face is like, get stuffed. But yeah, it was more the fact that let's not celebrate. We've worked so hard to get here, and you can sort of see that teams can slip up and get a couple of goals late. But we were probably 20 odd points up, so it didn't really matter. But I think the mindset of we can't let this slip after the year before.
I've got to say, I'm going back a bit here because I'm actually shocked that we glossed over as much as we did. But on this podcast, Wally, I think every episode we've ever had has mentioned Stewie Jew. And we did talk about him before, but going back to 08 as a teammate of his, when he was drafted, there's all talk about the weight. And I think probably a lot of people didn't know what he was going to become at Hawthorn because everyone thought he was probably at the end of his career. But what are you thinking during that third quarter when he's turning on the way he is? Not that you were shocked because you know what he can do, but it must have been an out-of-body experience watching that.
Yeah, I think, with someone who – the reason why they went and got him because he retired too young. Yeah. Like he's – how he can kick a ball, he can teach a lot of people his composure.
He's known as the floodbuster, remember? He's the floodbuster. Booming kick. He just bangs straight over the top.
Yeah, but the funny thing was why he was forward. Yeah. So we had Young and Crow go down, and we needed rotations. And I think the mindset was, look, Stewie's not going to run whether he has a rotation or not. So rather than put him on the bench, let's put Changa, let's put Croft, let's put these guys who are going to cover some distance on the bench to keep the legs going because, as we know now, having two less in the grand final on such a hot day, so we're like, where can we hide him? You can't put him down the back. So they said, let's just rest him up forward so he can't do any damage. 5 minutes later, he sets up 3 goals, kicks 2, and pretty much wins the game.
Yeah, it was incredible. And they were big outs because Crow at the time was like that general of the back line, and Young had about 22 touches to half time. He had one hand on the medal.
Yeah.
And then he goes.
Happy that he hurt himself.
Yeah, well, mate, it was.
No, you're right. So then we had to throw Campbell Brown, who. He
started forward, didn't he?
Yeah. Campbell Brown started forward, and then they threw him back to play as a small defender. So a lot of blokes there was a lot of chopping and changing because the two blokes actually said they were pretty important.
He was integral that year, wasn't he, Campbell Brown? Like he really he like a lot like yourself. I don't know, from the outside looked like one of those spiritual leaders where he sort of bled for the jumper and was a really big driver of that culture.
He's just a competitive beast.
Yeah.
So he came, I think it was 2007, year before, he came second in the BNF behind Sully, I think it was. And he was playing as a key position at 180 centimetres.
Yeah, wow.
Because he was athletic, he was quick, so he was playing on all these big centre forwards. But yeah, that was just the player he was. They knew that wherever they threw him, he was going to be able to compete and do a job. And on a big occasion, he was able to stand up.
And moving on to your media career, you're obviously with Channel 7. You've been doing that for the last couple of years, but we don't know what it's going to look like because the season hasn't started yet. But some big shake-ups in terms of the names that have come on board. You said you're doing the Thursday night.
Yes.
But you must be pretty excited with that lineup you're going to be on air with this year.
Yeah, it is. I think if you look, it's all changing because Fox can now do every game. So it's almost like a bit of a competition on who they tune into.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do a lot of the live streaming, all the free to air, that kind of stuff, which is going to help. But then having Kane Corns, he sets the agenda for a lot of stuff with all the media stuff at the start of the week. So that I would bring him across. And obviously, Rui had a couple of years in America. Then he came back and we're able to get him as a bit of an analyst on Thursday night, which is going to be great because having a person who played 300 games, one of the hardest workers at centre forward, clearly knows his stuff. And then we got Hamish back as well from overseas, who went and had a bit of a gap year in Switzerland. And
that would be nice.
Yeah, it is. Oh, he's a ripper. I think anyone who crossed paths with Hamish, you just know that he's an outstanding person.
Yeah.
But to have him back in there and mix him with BT, it should be good crew on Thursday.
It's
looking
a
forward
big
to it.
lineup.
It is a lot. They've gone very top heavy. Are you going to I'm saying this in jest, obviously, but are you going to sort of, give Kane a little bit, or because
I'm actually looking positive. I don't think I'm going to get a word in.
Okay,
I'm just going to
sit there and collect the paycheck.
I'm going to put the legs up, have a coffee. I might have a beer if I need to in between. But if he leaves a little bit of room for me to have a conversation, I might throw something in there. But look, he works hard. Like Kane works extremely hard. I'm lucky enough I do Tuesday nights with him, doing Thursdays. Did radio with him last year. he's an ultimate professional. He leaves no stone unturned. So he
Yeah.
did that with his football. That's why he was such a competitive person there. But his work ethic when it comes to football, it's not matched.
100% it is. And look, I've been lucky enough to do some stuff with him as well, and it's been great to watch. And you see, I think the public perception is shifting a little bit, and more. It's going. You know what you see in the comments on social media. You will see more now. It went from I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's a good take by Kane. Now there is a lot of another W take by Kane. Like I think that people are starting to go, hang on. Yes, he might say some outlandish stuff, but he believes in it, and he's kind of making a lot of sense. I think it's moving into that.
He's been consistent with it.
He's
not chopping and changing to suit a narrative. He's actually, this is my take, and I'll be consistent, which I have to applaud.
I think we've had people in the past have come out and tried a big wig and do all that, but then have gone away from it. So it's like, it's not real. He's come out, but a lot of the points, as you said, I was at my brother's wedding on the weekend, and they were like, I agree with what Kane says most of the time. Like, it's a lot of stuff. He says what everyone's thinking. Yes, sometimes he says some outlandish things, as you said. But people have come across as saying he's saying what people are thinking, where no one else is courageous enough to put it out in the media.
Now, before we let you go, just to go back to the on-field stuff, these are not groundbreaking questions, but I think it's something that our audience would like to know. And we often ask when a player's finished their career and you look back, who was the hardest opponent you played on? Is the first one?
It's a tough one because I played a lot of different roles.
Mate, you were the definition of a utility.
I had games where I was playing on Jonathan Brown at centre half back, and I'm sort of sitting there going, I'm better beside you than in front of you because you run through me. I played on Adam Goods in the middle.
That would have been a nightmare.
Trying to keep up with him, where his athleticism, who can play ruck, centre half forward, and then you go into the middle, getting tagged by Lingy. Stevie Baker was always a good battle. He's a fellow Colac bloke. It's sort of hard to say.
Is he the toughest when you got a tag? Was it Baker? Was he the toughest of them?
He was the dirtiest. He was without a shadow of a doubt. He was.
He didn't used to sharpen up his studs. He used to say that.
Well, that's the thing is because you grew up Colac. Like if I had got drafted to St Kilda because it was Hawthorn, St Kilda,
of course.
I was going to go and live with Bakes. I'm like, and then playing on him, I'm like, geez, he would have been a terrible housemate if this is how he tagged. So, but no, it was. He was always good. Crowley was a really good discipline one, but Crowley used to get into your head a little bit. Like, I used to like if I was playing on someone who'd give it to me, I'd give it to back. So that real hatred, where he would knock you over and he would pick you up. There you go, mate. I'm like, get out of my head.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
What about players you went head to head with, like that? You weren't necessarily tagged.
I was a spare defender. I didn't play on
I was expecting like a big midfield battle, shoulder to shoulder kind of stuff, but maybe not.
Early on, there was days when I remember my first real year when I started, like I was playing on Michael Voss, and I'm sitting there going, how good's this? Like I started, first couple of years was half forward, half back, and I'm in there going, I think it was his last or second last year. I'm like, how good's this? He's standing in front of me, and as the ball goes up, he turned around and whacks me in the midriff and dropped me. And you sort of sit there and go, yep, you're playing with the big boys now. But blokes like that, playing against Nathan Buckley, whether you like Collingwood or hate Collingwood, he was a machine. I remember I tried to line him up. It was second year. He was on one step. He was kicking, that big. So he was on one step, and I've charged at him, tried to drop him, and I fell backwards. He didn't move. To get a bloke who was as chiseled as hard as what he was. And then you go into some of the more freakier ones, like playing on Adam Goods in the middle. You're standing there going, if the ball goes out there, I'm not catching it.
Yeah, good luck.
So the best part was that playing in so many positions, you got to play on some of the stars, which I'll remember forever.
And in terms of the players, we know you played with some great players, but was there anyone you played with that you feel now that maybe doesn't get the most underrated player? I'll be interested to know. So you played with a lot of great players, but who's somebody that you played with that maybe the audience aren't thinking is one of the greats, but you absolutely loved playing with them. They worked hard. They did everything as a teammate for you.
One of the best teammates probably played with it was probably a Chance Bateman.
Yeah.
Timmy Clark was one who really set the standards as far as changing, like from do you do this optional run or not? Timmy Clark was one who really lifted the professionalism of our group. But Changa was someone who would run with anyone. Gazza in the grand final 2008. Yeah. If he needed to drop someone for you, if you're getting a tag, he'd be the first one in there to put a block on for you. They're probably two blokes that you sort of sit back and go, geez, I'm glad I played with those fellas.
I'm glad I asked that because Changa, I would never have picked Tim Clark because I remember he was in the leadership group. at one point later in his career,
Yep.
Tim Clark.
Yep.
There you go. See, not the household name that you would have thought of.
Absolutely.
But I think the best part of our crew is leadership groups are made up of all different,
Yeah.
blokes. So Timmy Clark was good. He was so good with the one-on-ones. Chance Bateman, I don't know if he ever got up and had a fair go at anyone, but his one-on-one chat is, if he'd chat to you, you'd be like, shit, I need to do what he's saying here. Like, because he just had that much respect for him. Where we had the other crew, where it would be a Lewis, a Mitchell, myself, we were all a bit more vocal. We had a good balance of guys who would be quiet a bit when they did have the one-on-one chat. You knew it was bloody powerful.
It is so important, isn't it, when you look at a team, having the fact that you could have selected from 4, 5, 6 blokes to be captain, and then we had you who was like seen as one of, if not the best captains in the league. Like, Clarkson must just look at that and go, look what I've got to deal with. Like, there'd be so many teams that are devoid of leadership that do not have a great captain amongst their list of 42, 43 players. That had to be a huge reason why Hawthorn was so successful.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think Clarko set that early on. He set the carrot sort of saying that you guys might be able to go and play at other places.
Yeah.
And understand Bud went, but because of the contract, I think everyone would go.
Yeah, well.
10 million bucks, I'll be probably out the door too.
Andy.
But Clark used to say to us, he goes, if you guys stick together, you don't know what you can build. You're going to get offered more money. I reckon probably every one of the blokes that we've spoken about has probably got offered more money at another club.
Yeah.
But he sort of knew that was going to happen. So he was like, no, if you stick together, take a little bit less now, you'll get it in your 50 years that you're finished because you've been successful players and I want to talk to you grand final week or during the final. So Clarko planted that seed pretty well, that if you get a good group, be selfless and stick together was the most important message.
Well, that's why the Cats were so good as well. I think they would have taken a lot less money to keep that nucleus
They're the
together.
same. They're the lines of leadership, like every line, forwards, backs, mids,
And the Hawks, this current team, obviously surprised a lot last year. How do you think they'll go this year? Because the line is 14.5, which is a massive total. I think they're second in line in betting for the flag. Like, if you told me this time last year, the Hawks would be the second favourites, I couldn't believe it. But obviously, they wanted a massive run. Do you think they improve from last year, or do you think they stabilise?
That's the hardest one, because a lot of teams that make a jump this fast, they normally, a few teams can figure them out.
Yeah, they go like this.
I think the thing, a lot of no-name guys that we probably didn't, unless you're Hawthorn supporters, you wouldn't have probably picked up on half those guys, or you wouldn't know what their face is. You might have known their name, but not their face. After last year, a lot of people out there are expecting big things from these guys. Can they make that next jump? Because I do know, speaking to a lot of clubs, that they're putting a lot more research, they're putting a lot more time into Hawthorn because they know how dangerous they can be. I watched their first little intra-club mid-Jan, it was near Australia Day, and they were quick. Like, they had the small forward line, they were lightning. So I think that's what you're going to expect. They're very similar. Mitch wants to take the game on. He wants to switch the ball. He wants to open it up, which is, it's great to go and watch. I think people sort of, as much as they don't like Hawthorn at times, they liked watching him because it was a brand that you sit back and go, shit, that's actually entertaining, and they score. But yeah, it's going to be another tough year for them because people are going to be ready. It's not going to be a young team that no one expects to come at them.
Are you surprised or not surprised at Mitchell's ability, excuse me, to be able to, because it's not like him. They do not play like he played as a player. He's a very different person, but the fact that he has been able to get this level of football out of them by letting them be themselves and be a very different personality to him.
Yep.
Are you surprised he's been able to do that, or do you just go, I reckon like he was always going to be that good of a coach?
He's a very smart individual.
Yeah.
And he knows he's not going to stick to a way that whether he believes it or not, he will know what way the next trend is to win a premiership. And 2 years ago, he wasn't coaching to win a flag then. He was coaching to win a flag next year or the year after. Yeah. So he's a very smart man on the field. He's a very smart man off the field. And if he knows if making them feel comfortable gets the best out of him, then he's going to let it. But also knowing that he would have had a hard word to get of it. Like, there's no way, like, bringing attention onto yourself, doing with the tweet, which I don't think he never meant anything by it. No. It was having a bit of a joke with Brodie Grundy. But he will snip at things that if he doesn't like it, if it's going to bring attention to the group.
Yeah, but he'd do that privately, right? Yeah. Support him publicly, reprimand privately is the way to go.
Always.
Do you love the fact now that you're able to go, I played in 4 premierships with this bloke that's now coaching the clubs, and you can look back at your former club and go, they're in good hands. Is that a nice feeling when you leave footy?
Yeah. Well, I think I was a bit fearful early because he was going to go and play the way he wanted to, and they can either go up or down.
Yeah.
And you always have confidence in the way he's planning it because he's so smart. He understands the game so well. He coached West Coast with no gaff and no Nick Nat to midfield, like the premiership. He was in charge of that premiership there. Like, you would look through, you're taking those two out, the midfield's going to get dominated. But he found out a way. He goes through tactics. He understands the game to explain it to his players, and most importantly, he simplifies things. So the players go out there, have clarity on exactly what they need to do. But yeah, you do know they're in pretty good hands when you've got a bloke like that in charge.
Last two, we normally, when we get a guest on, want to talk about their premiership pick and also maybe Brownlow. Anything else? That's probably
they're probably the two. So yeah, a team that you think can win the flag, and then who you think can win the Brownlow.
There could be 10.
Yeah,
like, this is
the thing.
This is the even.
Well, let me ask you: is there who do you think the climber is? Is there someone outside the 8 that you think can come in and be
Melbourne?
Okay,
were they 14th last year? 13th,
yeah,
14th?
something like that. Yeah,
no Petrarca. Their two main defensive blokes were injured for majority of the year.
Arguably the best defensive combo in the league.
Oliver, he looks sharp. Gawn's back. He had his ankle injuries last year as well. I expect Melbourne in the finals. I'm pretty bullish on Melbourne.
Yep.
But who's the flag favourite? You look at Sydney. Sydney finished on top of the ladder, and all of a sudden people haven't got them in their 8.
No.
They've changed coach, but a lot of the way they play is still going to be there, and their teams bloody handy.
The different voice could be what they need too.
Yeah.
And like Dean Cox looks like every bit like he's going to be a good coach. Yeah. What about the Brownlows? Anyone you like? Are you keeping an eye on this year?
$1.05 is Nick Dacos.
Dacos, yeah.
And I'm going with the other one. I'm bullish on Clayton Oliver.
Yeah.
Dacos should be miles in front for what he's been able to do the last 2 years. He didn't get injured 2 years ago. Probably won that one.
Wins it, yep.
Cripps was just obviously outstanding. He would have won it every other year last year, apart from Cripps.
45 votes.
40, that's ridiculous. That's nothing against Paddy. Like he had a fantastic year, 45 votes.
But just be a general commission.
But yeah, the other one's Clayton Oliver. I think saw photos of him the other day. He looks fit. Like obviously he went through a tough 18 months.
Yep.
But he looks like he's back into it, and he had a 6-pack the other day. So
wow.
I don't think he's ever had one of those.
No.
We had 28 and kick 3 in the practice game against Freo. It was pretty impressive.
That's good signs for Melbourne, but also for him being back to his best.
Oh, good.
Well, Hodgie, really appreciate you coming on, and it's been nice just sitting back and enjoying the Hawks Love Fest. I feel like quite often in a lot of interviews I probably speak too much, so it's been nice to sit back and let Wally really take the reins. He told me to shut the fuck up before he came in, so it's been great, mate. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything this year as well with the media.
Cheers
Thanks,
mate. Guys.
Thank you.
Wally, you haven't stopped grinning from here. We obviously let Hodgie out, and we've resumed here.
We can let him out.
You are grinning from ear to ear because it was great.
He was fantastic, mate. Never meet your heroes. That's bullshit. Meet your heroes and interview them on your podcast.
Well, we don't need to talk about your life outside of here, but you did have Gronk a couple of weeks ago. Now you've had Hodgie. What's next for you?
No.
I don't even know how this can be topped these last couple of weeks.
Maybe, I don't know. Should we fly to Seattle and hunt down Sean Kemp?
That would be unbelievable. But we do have to move on. That was great. Very, very much looking forward to I guess, the season starting and seeing Hodgie in the media perspective because he was great. But we need to move on because a couple of weeks ago, we've sort of been revisiting a lot of old football history. There's been some St Kilda stuff. There was your little rant a couple of weeks ago or last week, whenever it was, about, what sort of flags we should be celebrating. What should we be considering? You think, or you've told me,
I found something extraordinary.
Unbelievable.
So
from which year?
I'll get to that in one sec. Okay. But I do want to say that what I have loved about this is there's been a heap of online debate around this. And I think that, first things first, I actually don't give a shit. I think that all flags should be awarded as they were. Not all
flags are equal.
Not all flags are equal was my point. And I don't want to put a line through the history of the game. I love our game. I love all the ridiculousness of it. The fact that you hit the post and it goes in and it's only a point. It's not a goal. Things like all of those things. We've got 4 guys on the ground making different decisions
and the
for the same
different shapes.
All of that, everything. So it's crazy. So I love all that about our game. So it's not that. It's more just I find it fascinating, some of these things. And I put my my investigator hat on and I went deeper this week and had a look. Now, our man Bobby, one of our very loyal listeners, sent me a note and just steered me in the direction of the 1916 VFL season. Now, in 1916, first thing I want to say is I want to commend Carlton, Collingwood, Fitzroy and Richmond for getting the season up. There was only 4 teams. It was in the height of war, World War I.
Of course.
So they got a season up and they were able to play through it. Now, at the end of the season, Fitzroy finished last with a record of 2-9 and a draw. So naturally, they played finals. So all 4 teams played finals. Fitzroy went on a tear winning the prelim. And as we know back then, the prelim just determined who hosted the grand final.
Oh, yeah.
So then they played, they won the prelim against Carlton. So then they played Carlton the next week in the grand final. They beat Carlton in the grand final. So in the year 1916, Fitzroy won the wooden spoon and the flag.
Oh, my
Which
goodness.
is just the greatest thing ever. And I love that. So they won a wooden spoon and a flag in the same year.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I assume all the Saints heroes were at war, and that's why they that's why they couldn't.
But
get
I love that. I love it. So again, I don't want anyone to think I have a nuffy level of affection for our game.
Yeah.
And I love all these little
Jokes
things.
aside, it's the randomness of it all. Like in
it's
what
so good.
competition can that happen?
That's brilliant. So we are undefeated as a football league yet again, and that is brilliant. Spoon, you find me another.
I was going to say,
post
let's keep going with
in
this
the
because
world.
there's going to be
we're
some
gonna
more
find
anomalies.
Send through all the stuff. I want to know about all the weird things that have happened, and there
Yep.
could be things about different medals and BNFs and
Coaching
Brownlows.
changes,
all of that. We're
player
going
coaches, all
this
that kind of
season.
stuff.
I'm going to be living in the past.
Yep.
In terms of footy history, I'll tell you.
Love it. Wally, it's Oscar season, so
It
everyone's
is.
talking about the best performances in the movies, in the big screen, the cinema. But it was probably about a week ago. We didn't really jump on it at the time, but we've seen
We've been busy, Simon.
We've been busy. We've seen
Gronk and Hodgie and all
of
sorts of
course,
things.
Lachie Neale. We've
Yeah.
seen the media
Lachie
furore
Neale.
that has occurred. But basically, what's happened is Variety put out their best TV performances of the 21st century. So individual actors' best performances. But
Yep.
there's a few caveats. I believe one of those caveats is you could only pick one actor per TV show.
Yeah, which is stupid, but
Which
I'm
is
okay with
stupid.
it. That means you've got to find 100 great shows, and that's not the way it should work.
But
at all.
also, each show has to have started after January 1st, 2000, which means that The Sopranos, which started in 1999, but the next 6 years actually occurred over the 2000s.
I'm ignoring that in my rant.
You can't put that
I
in
don't care for that rule.
It's ridiculous.
Did
right?
you act? Did you act in that period and were you? Yes. Then that's all that matters. Variety should just shut down
They should.
after this. But
I want your take on it
Okay,
because
so
I know you've
given away a little bit, but I was gonna leave with this. I was gonna say, what do you think of this list, Simon? And I was gonna say James Gandolfini in Sopranos, Matthew McConaughey in True Detective, Viola Davis in How to Get Away with Murder, John Hamm in Mad Men, Bob Odenkirk in Better Call Saul, Amy Poehler in Parks and Rec, Tina Fey in 30 Rock, Eddie Falco in Nurse Jackie, all the Sopranos. And you go, it's a pretty good list. They're the ones that didn't get on the list, Simon.
the top 100.
So the top 100. I want to, okay, first thing, no knock. Julia Louise-Dreyfus, one of my absolute favourites. Veep, brilliant.
Yep.
Selena Meyer, if you haven't seen it, see it. No issue with her being number one. But I'm going to talk to some of the issues I have, the ridiculousness of this. Okay, the fact that you're putting some of these in the list means you've recognised them, but they just weren't high enough. So that's the first one. I'll go with the ones I'm saying, I'm glad they're on the list, but they're not high enough. Catherine O'Hara as Moira Rose in Schitt's Creek in the 20s. I'm sorry, that is a top 20 role. If we talk, I'm not talking about the quality of the show. I'm talking about purely the person in the role.
The performance, yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
Her best acting performance in a lifetime of acting. Claire Danes in Homeland. I'm sorry, 29 again. She was incredible in that.
Mm-hmm.
Game changer. Danny McBride. If you're going to in Kenny Powers, if you're going to do comedies, rate him properly. He should be
He was
higher
40,
than 40.
wasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Some show call-outs. Jessica Walter as Lucille Bluth. Love her in that, but you cannot. If you've watched Arrested Development, you cannot say that she has the best performance. She's brilliant in it, but I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm siding there with Will Arnett, or even with Jason Bateman, but probably Will Arnett as Joe. Alec Baldwin as Jack Donaghy. Variety have not watched 30 Rock. Do you know why? Because as good as he was as Jack, that was a partnership. You could not have one without the other. So Liz Lemon and Jack Donaghy in that show were so good because of the other one.
Yep.
So they need to be together. Again, Variety just proving they haven't watched this.
Yep.
It's an extraordinary list. Caitlin Olsen as Dee in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Again, great. Charlie is the show. If you don't have Charlie Day as the best, then again, you haven't watched the show. And then second is Frank. Charlie and Frank is the show.
Yep.
So Danny DeVito's second there, and I don't know. These are some of the ones. Okay. Naya Rivera as Santana in Glee we're saying better than Julia Garner as Ruth in Ozark. Really?
Oh, when you go through the list and you look at like this person's 75 and this person's 50, and you look at the discrepancies.
In what
it's madness.
world
Yeah, it's
is she
madness.
10 places better? And how is Julia Garner at 88? By the way, I agree with that. If the Ozark, if you had to have one person, right, she
I would agree with that.
Laura Linney, also underrated in that. Kristen Milioti as Tracy McConnell in How I Met Your Mother. Are we serious? She's in one season of How I Met Your Mother at the end. This is an absolute joke. She's better in The Penguin than she is in that show.
Yep.
So, like, what are we doing here? In How I Met Your Mother, it's Barney Stinson. Again, the reason you watch the show, Neil Patrick Harris is an openly homosexual man playing a womanizing straight man in the show. His acting performance was brilliant.
Yep.
Do we not appreciate that?
This is great.
Okay.
I've never seen you so passionate about something in my life.
Oh, and by the way, guess she was higher than in the list. Guess. Just guess.
Just tell me.
Carmen from The Bear.
Oh,
he's number 100.
that was unbelievable.
What are we doing?
That was my first, because it's the first person you see.
Do you know what they've done? They've gone, let's put number 100 as somebody like that everybody knows. You got a number 100's got to be a big name that's really good. And no. Number 100's got to be the 100th best. So your list is shit and your publication is redundant. Shut down. I'm done. Variety absolutely gets stuffed.
Well, I'm fairly certain Peggy Olsen was number 3 overall from Mad Men, and she's number 2 in the show because Don Draper is the number 1 character in that. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, Don Draper.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. But what would you have done? How would you? Okay, so all I'd say to this is, if you're doing the reflect, learn, and improve for Variety off the back of this and the sensational negativity that we've got on social, how would you change the way that they put that list together in future?
So what I would do, first thing I would do is it can be, you can have multiple people from the shows.
Yes.
That's fine if you're going to do a real list. The second thing I would do is I would actually just pick the best people that have done the best roles.
Yep.
So I would have no other filters on it. So I would go, is Charlie Day the best performer? Is his character, has he done the best performance with that character in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Well, yeah, he has. Is Barney Stinson's character the best in How Many? Yes, he has. Like, I look at all of this and go, you have, I don't know what you've tried to create, but you have not targeted the best ones. Maybe watch the shows and help.
Yep.
It's absolutely farcical, that list. And it's universally been panned.
Yep.
All right?
Well, this is the thing for me. I look at it, I'm not saying that maybe they did this at the start, but they're probably banking off it now, is the views would be insane in terms of page view numbers and the clicks. And that's, unfortunately, the world we live in, we're all outrage merchants. That's kind of what people want.
Yeah, and then there's no way the one person from a show is just absolutely stupid. There's no way there's some bad shows.
Yep.
There's some bad shows there.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
really
absolutely.
By the way, with the one I mentioned there, I don't know much about the show Glee, but I do know that the Jane Lynch that played Sue Sylvester is like an iconic TV character.
Yeah.
And she should have been that. She should be in there. So I look at anyway. It's frustratingly bad.
Yep.
Anyway.
Omar Little from The Wire is the greatest TV character of all time. Came in number 6, so it's not.
Well,
not
but at least,
Well,
I swear, I thought Omar wasn't going to be in there.
Yeah. If they didn't pick him, I don't know what I would have done. Simon's Choice.
Yes,
is back. Time Machine again.
Okay. Simon's Choice in the Time Machine.
The success of last week.
Music Edition. So we've just covered TV, sport.
Oh, where else can you
music?
Get this? Where else can you get this?
Where else do you need to go? All right. Simon's Choice Time Machine Edition. All right. So what I'm going to do, I've got 4 for you as we do.
Yep.
First one is we're going to start with I am going to be able to send you back in time and you're going to be able to go to a very intimate setting.
Oh.
And you are going to go and hear the Beatles recorded Abbey Road Records or Abbey Road Studios, I should say. Or you're going to be able to go and sit in the 60s. Or you're going to be able to go and sit in the 90s and watch Nirvana on MTV Unplugged. Which one are you doing?
I'm going Nirvana.
Ooh.
There's going to be some people that listen to the show that hate me for saying this, my parents included. But the Beatles don't do it for me. And maybe it's a times thing, maybe it's an age thing. But I mean, I find Nirvana to be, someone who grew up in the 90s, iconic, and
They are.
that performance is iconic. Not saying
Beatles
the
also
aren't
iconic.
No, but I just think like the music is a bit safe and a bit tame and a bit boring. If I could,
haircuts.
it's a bit. I could fall asleep during the Beatles. I'm not falling asleep watching that MTV Unplugged with Nirvana.
Oh, there you go. I would go the Beatles, but that's
Really?
perfect. Yeah, I'd sit in both camps. But yeah, mate, I was literally and I say this literally on the yesterday.
Yeah.
I had some Beatles vinyls going while I was cooking.
So look, I totally respect and appreciate that. I think for mine,
It was a weird day in my house,
Yeah,
by
that
the
is a
way,
weird day.
because we went Killers, Beatles, Kendrick as the 3 different
Yeah,
vinyls in a
wow.
row, which was Jack didn't know what was going on.
I just think music is. I don't need to go on my soapbox here, but I think it's become a lot more sophisticated. And I listen to like the Beatles, and no offense again, but like the Rolling Stones, and I get bored.
You have to appreciate the harmonies and the melodies, Simon.
Okay.
So there you go.
Well,
Next
there
one,
you
we're going to go to a festival. Ooh.
Ooh,
So would you rather
I know which one.
go and see Hendrix at Woodstock? So we are talking 1969 Woodstock,
Yep.
or Queen, or let's be honest, Freddie Mercury at Live Aid in 1985. Freddie Mercury, if you haven't seen that, everyone knows what Woodstock was. If you haven't seen Freddie Mercury in Live Aid, Radio Gaga, it's what ownership over a crowd looks like. It's the best live performance I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think that's why I picked Freddie Mercury.
You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
I think that's why I pick it. But I mean, in saying that though, like Hendrix is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Would you
That's
choose?
hard. That's harder than the Beatles one for me. to
Okay,
pick.
so but the thing is, so you've got to choose to say the iconic moment of being at Woodstock and seeing Hendrix versus what would be a better thing to experience. So it's like, what's more important to you? Like doing something,
saying you're at Woodstock,
saying
69, but then
or what's more important? Yeah, the enjoyment, or
I think it's the enjoyment for me. I don't.
do you do it for Compton or do you do it for the gram, Simon? That is the question.
It's the enjoyment for me, and
There
I
you go.
definitely think it's the Freddie Mercury.
So,
one.
yep, great. There you go. As Kendrick says, doing it for Compton, not the gram. So you are there indeed with Freddie Mercury. The last one I have, would you rather, this isn't going to be a great one. I've brought sport into this. You've got to go and sit, but also you have to be known as the one responsible for taking the world back in time and witnessing Angry Anderson in 91 at Waverley Park before the grand final with the Batmobile, or Meatloaf in 2011. And then that will be on your LinkedIn.
I think Angry Anderson's got more. There's more love for Angry Anderson than there is Meatloaf.
Oh,
because
Angry Anderson was better.
It's better, but also he's not. It's not.
But it was
Meatloaf is international.
The scene itself, like people were laughing in that. It was the Batmobile, and it was.
The funny thing with the Batmobile is that, for me, is the AFL being in amateur hour. Meatloaf is where they tried to be sophisticated, but it's still fucked up because he was so terrible. But I think there's a little bit of like charm with Angry Anderson.
I agree. His performance was okay.
It's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad.
Okay, that's the correct answer. We just need to jam some footy in there. But there you go, mate. There you go. Some interesting choices. We were split on the first one. I think we
and
probably
look, I'm
similar
not
on
saying
the
the Beatles are not a good band or have not influenced music in the positive. I just, from a personal style, personal taste, I just think I need a little bit more than what they were dishing up. That's all I would say. But I would love to have seen you cooking in the kitchen with the Beatles playing in the background.
Great.
Extraordinary
Love
stuff.
me do.
We've got one thing to do before we go.
We do.
And it's not a pondering because it's too jam-packed with this episode with Hodgie. We just wanted to go quickly through these last few segments. But we promised a few people in a few different group threads that we're in that we talk about our over-unders for 2025 for AFL team total season totals. We cannot get through all 18. No one wants to listen to us talk to all 18. So we're just going to give our top five. And we're not going to go with a massive justification.
No,
we're just going to go with the team and then a little reason why. Mine's changed a little bit since we first spoke a couple of weeks ago about this, and this is the definitive 5 that I'll be backing. So first up, I've got Geelong to go over 13.5.
Yep.
I think
I knew you
it's nearly a lock. I reckon they're going to be better than they were last year, and they're a prelim chance for mine and maybe even a flag, so let's go with them. The next one is not going to be a shock because I said this on the show a few weeks ago. I think in the first 9 rounds, they are in trouble. They could be 1-8. They could be 2-7. The Saints over under is 9.5, and I'm taking the under. I think they probably win somewhere between 6 to 8 games and finish in that sort of 14th bracket. So it's going to be another great year for me. I'm taking West Coast over 5.5. I think they will win a lot of games. Well, not a lot, but they'll win games at home more so than they did last year. I like the fact that they brought on a few more senior players, fresh coach, fresh voice. I think they've looked okay in patches in the preseason. I think they beat North. I think they beat Richmond. And then they might, sneak a win against the Gold Coast, maybe beat the Saints over there. So I think there's plenty of opportunities for them. I think they won 5 games last year. Tell me they need to win 1 more and they're better. I think they will. This is the tough one because the line is so small, but I think everyone agrees that Richmond are going to go under 2.5. I could see them maybe sneaking in 2 wins. I cannot see them winning 3.
They will win a game because the worst teams of all time have
always
always
They
won
might
a game.
beat North.
So they will win
They might
a game.
beat the Saints in round,
I'm with you.
in round
Yep.
2. Who knows? Or
But
round
it's
3
1
when
or
we
2
play
wins.
them. But so that's mine. And then unfortunately, the number has changed. I had Freo over 12.5. It's now gotten to 13.5, but I'm going to keep it as the 12.5 because that's what I've actually backed. But it is, if you were to look at it right now, it says 13.5. But I'm going to take Freo over. I think they look like they've got a little bit more offensive firepower. We all know they can defend.
Yep.
Their midfield is elite, and their defense is strong. I think Freo are a chance for the top 4, and if they're going to make the top 4, they're winning at least 16.
Great. All right. Very good, mate. Okay. We've spoken about our own teams, and we said we would definitely include our own teams. I've decided I'm off the fence. I'm over for Hawthorn, over 14.5.
Can you just say what you said to me downstairs before we started recording? You said you were going to be insufferable.
I was going to be insufferable this year.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be. Okay, what if you start the year like 1-4?
We'll find a way.
Nah.
Jokes.
Wow.
I figure, do you know what? Every time we're good, people hate us and go on about it and all of this. And it's like, why not lean into it then? Give them a reason to actually dislike us, as opposed to making up fake narratives and getting your nose out of joint because Jack Ginnivan went to a pub and like all of a sudden every person that doesn't barrack for Hawthorn is just this incredible citizen that does nothing wrong. So I may as well just actually like lean into it. All right, so Hawthorn overs. I'm changing one of mine because of what Hodgie said. I'm going to go Melbourne over on the back of what Hodgie said. I was going to take Richmond. I was going to take Richmond under, but I'll take Melbourne over instead because the Richmond's so
Melbourne's
small.
11.5. It was 10.5 when I got it, but I think they still get there. Yep.
Freo, I'm going over. Whatever line that is, 12.5, 13.5. I think they'll win 14 games to 15 games. Then I sort of was torn. I kind of wanted to have 6, and I'll explain why. I think that Essendon will go under 10.5.
Yeah, see,
and
I'm fairly certain it's 9.5.
That's the only thing is, I can get. I've got 10.5 here. 9.5 elsewhere, 10.5 is $1.70. So that was the thing. So 9.5 is too skinny.
I
and
like
I
the Bombers
thought,
over.
If they're 9.5, I don't want to touch it. So then I was like, oh, maybe I'll leave that. So I thought, do you know what? Go with 2 teams I think will have good years. I'm going to go GWS and Sydney to both have over 14.5. I think that Sydney's not done. I think the new voice in Cox, the same team. They don't have a huge amount of worrying injuries. They've got Goulden, who's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, but I think that's okay. They've still got enough for team. I think they're going to be really good. And GWS have got the list. They've got the coach. They've got best key forward, one of the best key backs, elite midfield, some of the best role players, like damaging small, medium forward. Like they are a good team, and I really back Kingsley and what he's doing. So I'm going Hawthorn over, Sydney over, GWS over. I'm going Melbourne over and Freo over. So
all overs, no unders.
Super positive.
You're such a positive
So
guy.
I landed on the 5 overs.
My honourable mentions, which I have brought up before, are the Suns and the Bombers.
My honourable mentions, Richmond and Bombers.
I'm more bullish on the Bombers than you are this
You
year.
are, yeah. I'm 10.5 for me. I just felt like I don't see where the wins come from. Okay. But I might be wrong. But I'm not. Then they didn't make my final 5. So if they have a good year, good luck to them.
Look, Wally, great episode. I think my advice to you would be you're a little bit hot under the collar after Hodgie just left the building. I'd go home. I'd put the aircon on.
Cold shower.
Maybe get an ice pack out and just put the feet up. Have a cold one.
Watch your weight. 13, 14,
Oh,
15.
I got to go. You've been great, mate. Go Saints.
Go Hawks.